Welcome back to Cocktails and Classics. I'm Dylan. Joining me, as always, is Ben.
Hello.
And we're back doing a movie which we did earlier this year. We're doing the sequel now. We had done the original for the sequel's release, but um, we're here doing Beetlejuice Beetlejuice. The. Oh, God, what is this? Almost like 40 years later? When did Beetlejuice come out? It came out in the 80s, right?
Was it 88? Was it right before the year before Batman or the year after?
Oh, quick Google search. It came out in. Oh no! All my Google searches came up with the first one, or the second one. 88. You're right.
Okay. I knew it was I thought it was the year. I think it went Beetlejuice, Batman, Edward Scissorhands, Batman Returns. I know Burton did Edward Scissorhands between the two Batman movies. Which makes sense then. Then I should have known. I should have known Beetlejuice came before because Christmas time, Batman Returns, Christmas E movie. I'd say kind of Christmas adjacent, not really a true Christmas movie per se. One of those takes place during Christmas, but not necessarily a Christmas movie. But anywho, I was watching special features like behind the scenes thing about it, and Tim Burton was saying that it was kind of nice having a break between the two Batman movies that he got the chance to do Edward Scissorhands. And I went, oh, okay. Huh.
Yeah, you're right. It was Pee Wee's, Beetlejuice, Batman, Edward Scissorhands, Batman Returns, and then Nightmare Before Christmas.
Which he didn't direct, just
Yeah.
produced.
I mean, dude, he was cooking from like 88 to like. I mean, he still kind of does a movie every 2 years, but after Mrs. Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children, he took a 3-year break to do until he did Dumbo, and then it was a 5-year break before Beetlejuice.
I don't know if those were his decision breaks.
Well, because neither of those movies were that good.
Yeah, I feel like the Home for Peculiar Children was very much like people saw it were just like, okay, maybe we don't need this genre, this Burton genre of movie anymore. And then Disney was like, hey, why don't you come try your hand at a nice live action remake? You don't really have to like recreate anything. It's already done for you. And then they saw the final product and were like, Hollywood went, maybe sit out a little bit.
Well,
And then
yeah.
Beetlejuice came up and it was like, ooh, we do love that.
Well, we're also giving him we gave him Dumbo out of all the IP. It's like
What
Guy
were
Ritchie.
you going to give him?
I mean, all of them are weird like that. Like they gave Guy Ritchie Aladdin. Huh?
What's crazy is those movies don't really need well-established directors.
No.
They're remakes of movies
Well,
that exist.
and that's kind of why I feel like it's nice-ish when they do like, hey, up and coming director, here's this movie. Like you want to do like Ryan Coogler when he did Black Panther, like he became him after Black Panther. Like that was like everyone loved that fucking movie.
Black Panther, not really a remake of
No,
anything.
but I'm just saying like
Pretty original. Hadn't he also already done Creed at that point?
I don't think so. I think he had only done Fruitvale Station and what do you call it?
I thought
what was
Creed
that?
was before.
What was that other movie he did before? Hold on one second. Oh no, he did. You're right. Wow. What do I know? What do I? I mean,
Don't come at me about directing comic book movies. I've been in this shit.
I mean,
I've been here since Schumacher, bitch.
yeah, I guess. I mean, I don't know. Is Creed a big movie? I don't know. I mean, I guess now there's three of them, so decent budget.
The spinoff of Rocky? Yeah, I'd say it's a pretty big movie.
Do
I'd say
people
it's a
care
big
about
deal.
Rocky though at this point, Ben? Like,
What?
do people care about Rocky? Like, I mean, you
People
gotta
think
like.
he's a real guy.
That's because they're from Philadelphia and they're idiots.
No. No. I've met people outside of Philadelphia who think Rocky is a real person and that the movies are biographies.
Do those people know how to read? Do they know Google exists and you can like look
I
that
think
up?
most
And
of I don't think most of them are really sports fans, so I don't think they've ever really put the effort into googling it.
do they think Basketball's a biopic too?
If you watched the movie Basketball and thought it was a biopic, then you've got some problems.
Um.
No,
Well,
I mean realistically, if there's a sport you could kind of be duped about, boxing. How many real like professional boxers can you
can
name?
you name probably the big like four or five or whatever?
Ali, Sugar Ray, Tyson,
Foreman,
Jake Paul.
George Foreman,
Yeah.
um,
I
Joe Louis, just because
well,
of
that's. I mean,
the
even
fist
then, you
in the
think about
arena.
it. You think about Foreman and Ali were kind of in the same era. You think about that kind of middle ground between those guys and Mike Tyson. Someone would be like, "Oh yeah, there was this white Italian guy. He, you know."
And
And
he fought
if you've
Apollo
never
Creed, and
and if you've never seen the movie, and you're just like, "Oh yeah, it's about this boxer." Okay, yeah, I could see where someone would be naive enough to believe it. Probably someone who doesn't care about sports enough to even look into it.
yeah, all right. Well, I mean, the first one is pretty good, but I just feel like after a certain point, I'm like, do I need another Rocky movie?
Well, no. The only people who
No,
need Rocky movies are the people making them because they have to pay the government taxes.
like, what is it? The fourth one or whatever? Is that the one where he like gives Polly the robot and all that shit?
No. Well,
No,
ooh. Was the robot in 4?
I think so. Happy birthday, Polly.
I thought that was 5.
There's five of them.
So there's Rocky, Rocky 2, Rocky 3 is the one where he fights Mr. T, Clubber Lang. Then there's Rocky 4, which is where he fights Drago in Russia. Then Rocky 5, where he's retired and he's training real life boxer Tommy
it's Rocky
Gunn.
4.
Rocky 4 is the robot?
Yeah.
Okay. I knew it was in one of those, but Rocky 4 was still one of the decent ones, or one people still remember. Then Rocky 5, he's retired and then training this new boxer, almost like Creed, only the new boxer's a much bigger douchebag, so Rocky comes out of retirement to beat him. And then there's Rocky Balboa, which came out like in the mid to late 2000s. And then Creed.
I mean, they make money though. Is the problem? I'm not hating on Creed movies. Like whatever. I haven't seen a Creed movie, so I can't really like.
You've
Speak to
never seen
those.
them?
No, I've only seen
Oh,
the
they're
Rocky
good.
ones.
I'd put them on par with the Rocky movies.
I mean, even then, I haven't seen all the Rocky movies, but like, like, the, like, was it Rocky Balboa was like 20 something million to make, and it grossed 155 million in the box office.
Well, yeah, there's no special effects. There's not a lot to go into the movies. You know, where a lot of the other budget eaters go to. But anywho, Beetlejuice.
Um,
Whew.
yeah,
Man,
Yeah,
that was a good tangent.
that
That
was
was good.
a tangent. Man, I was like sitting in the shower the other day. Like I think it was like after Christmas, like the end of Christmas Day, and I was kind of just like sitting there. I was like, man, I'm kind of sad Christmas is over. Like I haven't had, since being like a kid, I've never been like sad that Christmas is over, But then now that like you're a dad and you like see the joy through your kid, like this is the first Christmas that Isla's been like able to talk and been like opening presents and really interested in, like she loved Christmas trees and Christmas lights, and you're just kind of like, man, I'm sad. Like I'm gonna have to put away this Christmas tree, and it's gonna break this girl's heart probably. Like, like I can't
See,
wait for Christmas again.
I think it was so weird for me because and it could be the fact that, my wife being 6 weeks away from a due date, that like I just did not have
You didn't have the
the
spirit.
feeling and energy to put into Christmas.
Oh, Ben.
I mean, you got to remember we drove down Christmas Day, did Christmas, went to then my in-laws for dinner, then left that night to drive home. I mean, like it was almost just more like a logistical issue.
Yeah.
And then we came home and I took all the ornaments and that off the tree today and everything else. It just, I don't know. It could just be too, I'm getting old. So like
Yeah, yeah.
my
You're
family
Scrooge.
and in-laws and that ask me for like lists. And it's like, there's nothing that really gets me excited to open.
That's the
You
thing is
know,
like if there's something
it's
I
just
want throughout
like,
the year, I'm gonna buy it for myself. And the
well,
thing
and
that I want that like the thing I really want is gonna be something that you can't afford. So I'm not gonna ask you for like a $400 whatever Xbox or PlayStation. So like I'm not gonna
yeah,
ask for that from you guys
the,
because your budget's
there's
probably $100.
there's a big gift I've been talking about getting, and my wife keeps shooting me down. And then not to brag, but after we went to the casino, I'm like, oh, I think I want enough to cover whatever I want to buy.
I
I'm
love that
just, I'm
logic.
just saying, I'm just saying, as a team, we won really well. One of those team members carried a lot more than the other. I won't say who, but it was definitely me. So yeah, I just think it's one of those things where it's like the surprise of it. And also, we're at that point where our kids get excited about seeing stuff, but there's not really that point where they're like, there's that one thing I really want.
Yeah. Like they
You
don't
know?
they don't want anything like throughout the year
Yeah.
at this point.
My
It's
son
like they
my
see
son
something and
plays
they're like, I want that. And it's like,
my
okay,
son
well,
is Hot Wheels. Everything Hot Wheels. But the problem is after he opens the first pack to try to get him interested to open more gifts, is like, oh, is this more Hot Wheels? Okay, I heard the magic word. Now I'll come see if I can open it.
yeah.
Oh, this isn't Hot Wheels. It's this other really cool thing I got. Not a Hot Wheel. It's just like, dude, come on, show a little more excitement. So I think maybe in the next year or so, when he kind of gets to that point where like there's something he really wants, and you can do that thing as a parent where you're like, you let them open all their gifts, and they're like, oh, I didn't get the thing I really wanted.
Yeah, and then
Like,
you're like, oh,
oh,
but wait.
surprise! There's one more.
To kick things off and get everybody in the right mood, we're gonna go to this week's cocktail from the Boozy Ginger. It is the Beetlejuice. Oh, it's just the Beetlejuice Bubbles. And we'll hit a link down in the bio or in the show notes, and you can watch the reel. Give the Boozy Ginger her credit, but it is 3 ounces of sparkling wine, 1 ounce of limoncello, a half ounce of blue curacao, and a dash of green edible glitter, which is optional. And then you rim it with agave and black sugar. And I feel like this would be okay. I didn't have the ingredients to make it. I'm
Can
not.
confirm. Is okay.
It is okay. I don't like limoncello, so I definitely don't have limoncello. And I guess when we moved at some point, I got rid of my blue curacao.
I have limoncello specifically from another cocktail we made
Nice.
somewhere down the line. Still had the bottle.
Okay. Okay. That was I think I had the same bottle of orange cello from like 2015 that I also threw out when we moved.
Yeah. So I will say the thing with this is, I don't know what that girl did in the Instagram video, or maybe, but I think you really have to short the blue curacao,
Yeah,
because if you don't, it just gets super
blue.
blue and not very green. So mine turned just
Was your
very blue very fast.
I was gonna say, is your limoncello like super yellow or is it?
Yeah, it's yellow,
Hmm, interesting.
but
Yeah, maybe.
I don't know. So mine turned out a little bit more blue than green. I don't know. Maybe I should have started with the blue curacao and then kind of poured everything else until it turned green, rather than
Yeah,
trying to measure it out like an idiot. Um, it's very
I mean
sweet.
it's yeah,
It's
that's
it's a
kind of
very it tastes like you mixed alcohol with like some sort of soft drink, like a Sprite maybe, with the lemon flavor of it.
yeah,
Like it
and I think
just,
blue curacao is orange, right? So
yeah, I think it's kind of triple sec in that nature.
yeah, so you're kind of just like
It
orange and lemon.
it tastes like pop with liquor in it.
Which is
Um,
it's not necessarily a terrible thing, but
it's not. It's
it's
not.
just not
And if
not
it's
my
something
cup
you
of
prefer,
tea. Yeah.
great. Not my thing. I had to put an ice cube and water it down. It was too sweet for me.
Hmm.
It was just too much sugar. Um, but yeah, if you could get it to be the right color, I think it would be really cool. I think it would be a really cool like Halloween party drink.
That's
Um,
that's what I was kind of
especially
feeling.
if you're, especially if you're younger and not old like me and can handle drinking pop without feeling like you need to take some sort of thing for heartburn. So,
Um.
ah,
Oh shit! The blue tongue.
ah.
Is he Beetlejuice?
Yeah,
Ben came dressed in cosplay. He's
I
Beetlejuice.
I committed to the bit.
And if you want to make the Beetlejuice Bubbles, hit the show notes below. We're gonna link our caster links, and you can get some sparkling wine, some limoncello, some blue curacao delivered directly to your door. We get a little bit of kickback from that. And you can watch Beetlejuice Beetlejuice on HBO Max as of recording because we're going to spoil it. And maybe watch the original too, so you don't spoil that by watching the sequel. Uh, uh, Beetlejuice Beetlejuice currently sits at a 6.7 out of 10 on IMDb and a 3.3 out of 5 on Letterboxd. It's a story of after a family tragedy, 3 generations of the Dietz family return home to Winter River. Still haunted by Beetlejuice, Lydia's life is turned upside down when her teenage daughter, Astrid, accidentally opens the portal to the afterlife. It's directed by Tim Burton, written by Michael McDowell, Larry Wilson, and Alfred Goh. It stars Michael Keaton, Winona Ryder, Catherine O'Hara, Jenna Ortega, Justin Theroux, Willem Dafoe, Monica Bellucci. Danny DeVito was in there at one point.
I think that's really the
That's it.
the
That's it.
big, yeah, that's
I
pretty
was like
much
trying to figure out
the
the
big
kid. I
part
was
of it.
like the Jeremy Arthur Conti. I was like, who is this kid? Is he's at first when I saw him, I was like, is that Steve from Stranger Things? Is that fucking what's his name? Joe Keery? And I was like,
Yeah,
no, it's not him. Then I was thinking like, have you watched Wednesday?
I've not.
Okay, I was like, is that one of the kids from Wednesday? Since Jenna Ortega's in here too, and I was like, no. And then so I looked it up. He's been in 2 things. So I was like, all right. He just looks like every other dude. Generic teenage love interest.
All right. So do we just want to
Just give our reviews
dive
right
right
now.
into it?
Just be like, I thought it was a blank at a blank. No, I'm just kidding.
No, I'm just saying. Like, do we want to dive into some of the?
Oh,
I have a couple things that positives and a couple things that are nitpicky negative things.
well, do you want to
Um,
do? You want to do good or you want to do bad? Or you want to intermingle it? We could just Ben.
let's start with this.
It's our
I
show.
I'm I'm gonna say this. Uh, I am a. I think I'm starting to become a big fan of this idea of sequels waiting for like 20 to 30 years.
Like well after anyone is
Yeah.
interested in it anymore.
Well, I mean, more like as long as you don't do it with like the full reboot of things,
Yes.
but like if you're just doing it as almost like another, like that's my fear with Top Gun. Like they did Top Gun 2. I'm worried that they're just going to like jump into making this now a trilogy with a spin-off-y type character. Don't do that. Don't do that. Beetlejuice Beetlejuice. Don't make some sort of now like, oh, now we're going to use Jenna
Threedle
Ortega's
juice.
character and, she's going to be the lead of another like three Beetlejuice. No, we're not. Don't do that. We're not asking for that. But to do like your one-off sequel and like just wait until the time is right and it's something people still want or kind of rediscover and kind of reclamor for, great. I think there's been a couple, like I said, Top Gun that did that, this movie that's done it. I think there's been a couple more that have done it recently that it's like, yeah, this is Twisters just did it too.
Oh, yeah.
I haven't had the chance to see it, but I heard good things. Um, you know, yeah, that's I feel like maybe a good thing. Maybe that's the play. If you have a really strong standalone movie, don't just rush right into a sequel. Maybe let it, if it's a good enough standalone movie, just kind of wait and then see if people still kind of connect with it as time goes on. Then start thinking about how you want to do a sequel.
You have T2 Train Spotting, Tron Legacy, Dumb and Dumber 2, Mad Max Fury Road, Bill and Ted Face the Music, Doctor Sleep, Coming to America, Blade Runner 2049, Top Gun Maverick.
All right, I feel like some of these you're saying make me regret my statement. It seems like there's some misses in there with some of those hits.
I mean, I don't know. I like the concept, or I like how they did this one. I haven't seen the new Top Gun movie, but I did like this one. How it's like some things felt a little fan servicey, but then also like they didn't necessarily bring everyone back, and I didn't need everyone. Like the dad Charles, like his whole part being like claymation,
Claymation.
and then getting eaten, and it's just his torso, like his bottom half, the whole time. Like,
Big reason for that.
oh,
Oh, did you not know this
no,
information?
no. I looked at to see if he
Oh,
was dead, and he's not dead. So,
he's not dead. He's in prison. I I don't know what exact crime. I believe it is sexual in nature. Um,
well, then he probably would have been in the movie if that was the case.
and I believe. Don't quote me on this. I'm gonna look it up just to
It
confirm.
it was better because he wasn't in it. I'll say that much.
Yeah, Jeffrey Jones. Let me see if it comes up what he's currently in the slammer for.
Child
So
sexual
yeah,
abuse materials.
yes,
Nice.
yes, child sex abuse material and soliciting a 14-year-old boy to produce sexually explicit images.
Delete everything I said earlier.
So
I mean, I didn't say I liked that, like him at all. I was just literally saying that I liked that he wasn't in the movie, but I guess there is good reason why he's not in the movie. Fuck that
yes,
guy.
there was a reason that they immediately killed him off. I was surprised that they kept as much of the character throughout the movie as they did. I was surprised they weren't just immediately like, he died. We can leave it
Yeah.
at that. Because even like the claymation, like, still kind of looked similar to him. And it felt like there were kind of like images of him in the house. And it was just like, maybe we don't need to include any part of this guy.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think I had things that I really, like I said, I liked about this movie, things that I did not like as much about this movie. I liked that this movie felt like a Tim Burton movie, but not in the way you would think. This movie felt very much more Pee-wee's slash Mars Attacks Tim Burton to me than it did like your typical Nightmare Before Christmas Tim Burton.
Yeah. I felt like, and I just want to say this up front, I enjoyed the movie. I didn't like how it looked. Like, we're kind of like, last week we were talking about the holdovers and how it felt like a movie from the 70s when we watched it. Like, it had this texture, this feel. This movie was not like that at all. And this movie was just felt sterile, like clean almost, like the
It
way that
felt
it's overly digital, it felt to
it
me.
felt Netflixy to me,
Yeah, which
if that makes
isn't
sense.
isn't a bad thing. I mean, it looks like it was shot in 2024, but at the same time, like I would have liked like a little,
Grunge.
yeah, a little grunge, a little something to make it feel like a little less sterile. But I mean, that all that to say, like it was just the way it looks that like kind of
You
was
know why it
off-putting to me.
feels so Netflixy to me? If you look, even if you go to IMDb and you look at so many of the photos,
Yeah,
everything is like that, very much that like blue lighting from one side, yellow lighting from the other
the
feeling.
yeah, the blue and orange, orange and
Yes.
teal or whatever.
Yes.
Yeah.
So much of it looks like that kind of lighting to it. And like
Well,
maybe
and I
that's
mean,
why it just kind of screamed that to
he
me.
literally just made Wednesday for Netflix. So like we might still be like we're getting, his uh, you know, oh, well, I know how to make this type of thing, whatever, but like I like or I enjoy the going back into Beetlejuice. Like I feel like Michael Keaton as Beetlejuice is just such a fun character, and he like fully commits to the bit, and it is this outrageous character that you don't have to expect anything. I feel like when you watch Beetlejuice, like you can just sit back and be like, yeah, whatever's gonna happen, any insanity could ensue here.
Buckle in.
Yeah,
Buckle in and let the
like
ride go where it's going to go.
it is a good just popcorn sit back and enjoy flick. I feel like some movies you have to sit and you have to think and you'd be like, well, I wonder what's going to happen here and what's going to happen here. And like there was moments of this film where like I friggin' saw the boy being dead from like way back. Like as soon as she saw him, I was like, is she about to die and see this kid and then it's going to be like, oh, they're both dead. But then like I was like, no, she's still alive. So like maybe the dude's just dead. And then
As
it was
soon as
like,
Lydia said, I was about your age when I discovered my powers, and then she's riding her bike, and then she finally, like, runs in and sees the first person she interacts with, I was like, oh, this is gonna be a dead guy. Now, the twist with him,
where he
I did not see
tricks
coming.
her. Like, that,
Well, not just that, where it comes out like his mom and dad are both dead
Oh,
because
yeah.
he murdered them. And he didn't just fall and break his neck, he fell while the police were trying to capture him.
That
But
was a
what
good twist.
I will say, I think one of my negative points in this movie that I was going to bring up, there are too many threads that are trying to be connected at the end.
Yeah.
Like, the whole thing of him being like a killer and wanting to trade his soul and this, that, and the other thing, just, it was fine. Cool. The whole thing with the soul sucker, cool. The whole thing with like her wanting to see her dad and talk to him, and she does, and she gets that
Willem
experience.
Dafoe detective.
Cool. The Willem Dafoe detective story going on, the actual Beetlejuice and Lydia story. There was too much.
Yeah.
At the end, I was sitting there and I had to pause for something, and I paused and I looked and I'm like, there's only 20 minutes left. It feels like we've resolved nothing.
Nothing. Well, I mean, yeah, the resolution was bring everyone together. Well, they got rid of Killer Kid really early. He was easy.
Which is another reason I thought it was completely unnecessary. Like, we did this whole thing, and then it was like
That
instantly
was our
solved.
answer to get into the underworld
But there could
was
have been, you could have just written it as like, you find out he's dead and she's helping him get into the underworld just to be a good person.
yeah.
Doesn't need to be this whole trickery and all this other stuff. Like I said, it just felt like there was so much that was thrown in there. It seemed like Tim Burton wrote the script for this movie. He's written it and kind of set it aside and then came back to it a couple years later and didn't love what exactly he wrote, so he kind of changed things. And it felt like he did that 2 or 3 times before he got it to a point, but then couldn't pick which draft he liked. So he was
Well,
like,
he
well,
didn't write it at all.
maybe we just take parts of all of it. Well, that's the writers, it felt like, is what happened. Or
Yeah.
they each, all three of them came in with a separate idea, and they were like, well, how do we make it all work together? It seemed so non-cohesive.
Yeah. I agree
And
though.
like I said, and then it just seemed like we were telling these non-cohesive stories just for at the end to be like, well, we've got 20 minutes. How do we wrap this up? Okay, this happens, and then this lady shows up. So we give her Justin Theroux's character, and then the cops show up to arrest whatever, but they're frozen. And then the contract's null and void, so now that's just the end of it. It's like, what the hell? What? What? I watched the ending and I'm like, what? What? This is the conclusion? None of this. We just kind of sped through the entire wrap up and climax of what's happening.
Yeah, it was basically like let's throw everyone in to this final scene and then we'll resolve it all there. I was waiting for, which we kind of got. I was waiting for our musical number to meet the like calypso, jump up calypso, the Harry Belafontaine moments from the first Beetlejuice because I feel like those were like the
Those are
most
my favorite
iconic.
parts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like waiting for those moments to happen, and then we did get the one at the wedding where like everyone's being forced to sing. Felt a little like, why does this need to happen? Kind of,
It
but
also
like,
just felt like the song wasn't as catchy.
no. It was like something about a wedding cake. I don't know. I don't even know what the song is.
Yeah, I don't know if it was an original for the movie or what, but
Um, but yeah, like I don't know. Was I was I ever like disappointed in this movie? No. I was very whelmed. I was I feel like the only way they would have like really disappointed me is if it was just a total piece of shit and it wasn't. It was fun, it was good. It was enjoyable, but yeah, I just feel like when I went in I was like, "Oh, this is going to be, we're going to everyone's here." I liked how they kind of tied it in. I like that like Beetlejuice was still obsessed with Lydia after all these years. Like still wants to marry her or whatever. I do feel like you're saying, like all these crazy threads, like we don't need the other wife. That storyline literally adds jack shit to the story.
it felt like the only reason they did it was to give an introduction of how Beetlejuice came to be.
Yeah. I mean, that's literally all it adds. There's one scene where she is in the same room as him and she is eaten by a sandworm immediately. That's it. That whole character, The whole time where she is sucking souls from the janitor, the dude who runs the dry cleaning place, the like her just wandering around, like
Which even then,
it's
the first scene
pointless.
you meet her in takes so freaking long.
Yeah, with Danny DeVito. Dude,
When
yeah,
I
where she
see her,
staples herself.
oh
I
my
was like, what
god.
the fuck is happening? Why is this
I was
taking
like, I
so
was like, I feel
long?
like we could have shown her staple like one or two. We could have cut to
Yes.
something else, cut back to her just kind of
How long was this
maybe
movie? Were
finishing
we
like the
trying to get to a
last.
runtime?
I don't know, man. If you were trying to get to a runtime, write a conclusion that makes more fucking
An hour
sense.
and 45 minutes. I want to know how long that scene was.
I let me tell you, I hit like the fast forward 10-second button in that scene
It was
twice
awkwardly long.
cuz I was like this is just uncomfortably long.
Yes. Um. All right, hold on. I'm
Um
about to go. I'm doing the research right now, Ben.
but yeah, like I said it we had this character come in to introduce, which I also thought was, I don't know. I mean, we get it. Beetlejuice, even as a living person, was a piece of shit. Uh, but then he meets like the soul sucker, drinks the poison.
Okay,
Uh,
so it is
oh, okay.
almost. It is almost a 2 minute long scene. Yeah, it is like about a 2 minute long scene from her box falling to her finishing stapling herself. It is a 2 minute long scene, which is a lot of time. A lot of
Yeah,
time in a movie. Like it, when you take a screenwriting class, a page of a page of dialogue is a minute of screen time. They're like, oh, it's a 120-page script. It'll be 120 minutes. Like they spent 2 minutes of this movie just fucking sitting and watching this girl staple herself back together. Um, yeah, like that was pretty pointless. Um, what other
like I said,
storylines is
I
fucking
I feel
pointless
like
that I
that
could?
whole thing was just to introduce like what how he came to be. And even then it was like, oh, he met her before he died, he killed her, so that way she couldn't become immortal. And then he was basically Beetlejuice in the netherworld, and Juno didn't like the bullshit he was doing, so he went out on his own to become a freelance. Like that didn't introduce or explain any of how he became a more like more of a demon than a ghost.
Yeah,
Like I don't know. I feel like that's why they did it, and then even that was kind of lackluster. Said the whole thing with Wolf Jackson, and then he's trying to solve the case just to show up at the end and do absolutely nothing.
there's this review on IMDb. Um, Not gonna read the whole thing, but just this little snippet that I was just reading, and I was like, it's kind of just this is good. This is basically what we're just talking about. It's like what I found interesting was that for years Burton and Keaton steadfastly refused to engage in a sequel unless the story was right. Then for this to be the one they progressed with, which feels more like a bundle of ideas gaffer taped together than an actual story. There are four main plot points, two of which could have been exercised, pun intended, partially or even completely without making much of a difference. Feels like they're only there so there's an excuse for particular actors to be in the film. It's also a bit too enamored with recreating moments from the original, so there are two gags that are slight variations that are on the previous ones, and another song and dance possession scene, which is a really strong moment, but again, just a remix of the first film. Almost single handedly, Keaton drags the film to being acceptable. They smartly keep his character out of the majority of the film so that when he does appear, he's a breath of life, but it's a shake-up the film needs all too often, and I don't think I found anything anyone else did to be funny. As you can see from the score, despite how negative this review feels, I wouldn't say I dislike the film, but it feels all too close to being the cash grabby sequel we could have had at any point in the last 30 years.
Like I said, it didn't feel cash grabby to me. Like it felt, at least like with Michael Keaton's performance, none of it felt like I'm just here to collect a check.
Yeah.
It felt very much like I have a passion for this character. Seen as we discussed when we did the first movie, most of the character creation was done by him. So I
Yeah.
feel like in his mind, it's his character, his creation, his baby, if you will. That like it makes sense he put as much into it as he did, but it just seems like that guy said it was like four different ideas that someone was just like. It felt like you're in a group project and someone came, like four people came in with different ideas and we're just like, well, how do we turn this into this, how do we make this one paper to turn it in and get a good grade, instead of like, well, maybe we should focus on this one or this one. Yeah, it just seemed like it was like, well, we have to use everyone's idea and that way everyone's name can get put on the poster. It just.
Here's, I don't know. My,
And weirdly enough, I know I said it felt very like, it felt much more Mars Attacks-y,
yeah.
like comical, referencing different, kind of the new heart joke at the end where Beetlejuice wakes up and is like, I just had the craziest dream.
Yeah.
And then Lydia wakes up, like the kind of tropey humor that Burton has shown in the past. I kind of wish there was more of the original, like, late 80s, 90s Tim Burton-y aspects to it. The weird sculptures, you know, the shit that seemed odd and out there. Delia is doing more like pop art-y stuff
Yeah,
than like the
like
weird,
performance art and stuff.
creepy, dark sculpture-y stuff that she was doing.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, even like the I'm going to use my body as a canvas, I brought in this French spray painter to graffiti me. And it's like, that's not really what her art was.
Yeah.
Her art was more like, look at this creepy fucking creepy sculpture I made. It looks like it'll haunt a kid's nightmare. But it just seemed like a lot of that was kind of abandoned, and I kind of wish that would have been used more. Even the sandworm. Like, I would have liked to have seen more from the sandworms than its two very brief appearances.
Um. Yeah. I mean, here's part of my problem with the whole thing. Right. Is that we sit here and like everybody sits here, not just us. Everyone's gonna sit here, watch this movie, and complain and be like, "Oh, well, they just tried to recreate moments and recreate things and like create stuff from the original movie." But if they didn't do that,
Oh,
we'd be
everyone would
bitching
be
just as
pissed.
much.
Oh,
We'd be bitching
100%.
just if they went and did Beetlejuice and completely left fielded and like we were just like, what the fuck? Like, where was the dance possession number? Where was the Michael Keaton jokes and like the we would just be going, what the hell happened here? Like,
Well, what's weird, though, is that
it's a fine sequel. It
I think the big thing is that those aren't the things I have issues with.
I mean, it's the overbloated plot lines that don't make any sense. We don't need in
Yeah,
the movie.
yeah.
Yeah,
The first one, the plot made sense. You had the husband and wife who died. Their husband is being bought by this couple that are gonna ruin their house. They want to get rid of them. They bring in this exterminator. Beetlejuice runs amok. Chaos ensues. Cool. Like we said, this one just has like six different plot lines you're supposed to follow. And
and
like
then
we said
yeah,
at the
like
and then at
Beetlejuice
the
is brought
end,
in just to save um Astrid. Like, and then it's like he's not even like that's not even what he ends up doing. He ends up getting pulled in by Dahlia or whatever her name is, Delia.
yeah, he doesn't save anyone at all.
Well, he kind of does. He does throw the dude into the abyss,
I mean, yes,
but
but
also her
also I
dad
feel
was helping
like
at that point. But
exactly. That's where I'm just like I feel like it wasn't necessary to bring it into anything. It felt like there was just a lot of bloat. I did like the use of the the banana boat song as like the funeral children's choir song.
there was a review I
Um,
just read that was like it was certainly a choice to have Jeffrey Jones's character sung into his everlasting peace by a children's choir, but
oh no! See, what's interesting is that uh, the actor who played Ortho in the original, um, when he died, he requested that the Banana Boat song be played at his funeral.
oh my god.
I mean, that was probably the biggest thing in his career.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I guess he was in Heathers, but I mean, in terms of things you look at what he did, most of it was voiceover work outside of like pretty much outside of Beetlejuice.
Um I don't know. So Keaton insisted that Beetlejuice had limited screen time in the film, like the first movie, saying that the idea was no, 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 you can't load it up with Beetlejuice, that'll kill it. The Beetlejuice character doesn't drive the story as much as he did in the first one. He's more part of the storyline in this one as opposed to the first one, which is a case of this thing comes in and drives the movie a little bit.
I feel like he wasn't driving a lot in the first one.
No. I
Didn't
feel
we look it
like,
up? And his screen time in the first one is only like 15, 20 minutes or something.
yeah. Like I feel like Alec Baldwin and Gina Davis's characters are the driving ones in the first one, which I feel like we kind of needed that in this one, like something more so than what we have to drive the plot in this one. Because in this one, I feel like I don't care enough about I don't care enough about the situation for it to drive the story. I feel like we're talking about like we don't really need the dead kid, but he is the one that is driving the plot basically. Because if he doesn't take Jenna Ortega into the underworld, like where do we get? But I don't really care about Jenna Ortega's character in this movie because she's just like a stereotypical teenage brat character. Which, no offense to her, I feel like she plays somewhat similar character to Wednesday Adams in this movie. But
Well, and you
like,
could have just made it that
she's like the unmacabre version of Wednesday Adams in this
yeah.
movie,
But
which
hear me out. Look how easily we can cut the kid from the storyline. Ready? She says in the attic. She says Beetlejuice. Lydia stops her from saying it again.
and then she says it two more times.
She believes it's a load of bullshit, so she says it the two more times.
I thought that's what they were gonna
Beetlejuice
do.
tricks Beetlejuice tricks her into going into the underworld. Lydia goes to save her. She still gets to see the dad in the underworld. All of this other stuff can still happen, but we can cut the vengeful soul-sucking ex-wife, and we can cut the dead kid storyline. We can kind of just condense it a little bit, get a little bit more of Beetlejuice interacting with different characters outside of just Lydia. You can have him now interact with, excuse me, I'm blanking on her name, Jenna Ortega's character,
Astrid.
Astrid. I'm like, you can kind of throw in a little bit more of his interaction with the entire Dietz family. Like I feel like that saves us so much, and it's believable because we all know as soon as the mom who she doesn't talk to refuses to talk to on the phone says don't say that name, she's gonna go yeah okay whatever. And then when she's alone wherever, she's gonna say the name 3 times just to see what happens.
That's oh my god, yeah. I'm just reading all these reviews and they're just making me mad, you know. Uh, this the title of this one is "The Stuff Gas Station Purchased Melatonin Dreams Are Made of." But he's like Catherine O'Hara's fun to watch. Justin Theroux's Rory character starts out as a bit of an annoying simp boyfriend, but we learn the truth about him, and he's dispatched in 2 seconds, which seemed to be an over-the-top and lazy solution to his problem character. And Bellucci is wasted on screen as a nearly meaningless entity of evil that is dispatched simultaneously with him. It's like we get no insight into her or anyone else. So well, yeah, that's quite literally what happens. And even just, it just, I don't know. I don't know. There was no ending. Like we got an ending, but like it was just wrapped up in a pretty little bow in like 2 seconds. We got Jenna Ortega looks at the book and sees that his contract is void, and then
Yeah, it's not
she
even the
she
lack of
summons
an
the.
ending. It's that there's no
There's no
apex.
conflict almost.
There's no yeah, that there's just this we get to the last 20 minutes of the movie and it's just wrapped up with no like big moment that happens. Nothing big happens. This is a trivia fact that kind of irks me a little bit. Tim Burton wanted to start completely fresh, so he didn't rewatch the original movie or look at any potential secret or sequel scripts written over the years.
What if there was a better one?
Or hear me out, maybe you might have felt more in touch with what
You
the
were doing?
movie should have been like if you would have gone back and like I get like if you don't want to maybe rewatch the movie, but like at least tell me you went through and looked at like oh I had old like photo albums from the set and everything and how it's just something to bring back the memory of what you'd done, the feel of it. Because realistically, outside of Michael Keaton, yeah, this didn't really feel like the sequel.
Yeah, I agree. Is there anything else?
Um, no. Like I said, I think that was just my two. Like I said, I enjoyed it and I had fun, but I had so many gripes with the lack of the I guess bloat of storylines and lack of conclusion to said storylines.
Yeah, like it just kind of felt like. I mean, obviously, there is a conclusion, but it's like there's no. It's not a pretty conclusion. Like it's not you've built up all this stuff. There's so many things here, and then for it to just be taken out with like a
Two
simple
minutes,
a
not even.
simple solution of
For
we
for
called in
the
the sandworm.
for
Let's
the
go.
wrap up of this movie to be shorter than the scene of watching the lady staple herself together was bullshit.
Yeah, I mean it just makes it not worth it. Like it just yeah. There was no what's the word I'm looking for? Payoff. There was no payoff at the end. I feel like Ben and I had not seen this film, so it's another Goop Squad. Um, and I'll lead it off, Ben. You're gonna get 2 fresh reviews, and here you go. I finished the movie. We've been recording for like an hour. I finished the movie an hour ago. So yeah, I feel like, and we've said a lot of this. It's fine. I don't necessarily have nostalgia for Beetlejuice. I watched it for the first time earlier this year, but I enjoyed the original. I like Michael Keaton as Beetlejuice. I think he's it like I think he's like encompassed this character of Beetlejuice. Like he is Beetlejuice, in body, spirit, soul. And I feel like we needed a little bit more Beetlejuice in this. I feel like we needed like no offense. I don't think Lydia is that amazing of a character to carry the whole movie either. Like she's essentially just Jenna Ortega's character in the first one, like kind of the like somewhat goth bratty kid who's like doesn't fit in with her parents or whatever. Like Lydia's got a stepmom and her dad, and then Astrid is only got her mom and her dad's dead or whatever. Like it's like they both have these like parental issues that they're dealing with, and like that's maybe why they're lashing out and doing these things. But then like they're just not that interesting characters to carry a whole movie, in my opinion. And then we have all these bloated plot lines that we've talked about that don't make sense. We don't get this conclusion. And really sitting down and talking with you, Ben, I feel like it's gone down a couple ticks for me just because it's making me mad that we've sat here and watched this whole movie. And then, yeah, like the whole thing is fixed in 14 minutes without any, like, I feel like there was never a fight back at any point of like, oh, like Beetlejuice is going to do something and he might not be done. He's going to come back and get him this time or something, like it was just like, oh, you did the contract's void. We can get rid of you. I don't know. Do I think you need to see it? No. Would I recommend you watch it if you were like, I'm bored, it's Halloween, I really liked Beetlejuice 1, and I don't want to watch anything that's too particularly scary? Sure. I'm gonna give it. I'm gonna give it a 5 out of 10. It's fine. That's that's it.
Yeah, I was curious to see where number wise you were gonna go.
I was debating a 4 or a 5. I feel like 4 is too low for me to be like, I enjoyed it. Like it wasn't terrible, but then like talking about it, it's kind of got me pissed off how shitty the writing was. Like just the
Yeah,
structure.
so I was between a 5 and a 6, leaning more towards a 5, and I think the conversation solidified it for me for a 5. And I was at a 5 the whole time because that was my feeling watching the end of the movie. Was like we had these bloated plot lines that got us absolutely nowhere in the end. Let's be honest, this movie, the most redeeming quality of this movie is Michael Keaton, and that's pretty much the main reason to watch the movie. If you
Yeah,
watch the
I would say
first
Michael
movie,
Keaton and Catherine O'Hara. I feel like her character is goofy, and I love seeing Catherine O'Hara because I feel like she was like kind of our childhood with like Home Alone and all that, like planes,
yeah,
trains, and
I think
automobiles. Like,
I think Catherine O'Hara
or
plays
was
a
she in the? Am I
very
thinking of a different movie?
no.
No.
You're
What
thinking
else
of
is
the
she?
fact that she rides in the van with John Candy in
Yes,
Home Alone.
yes. There's another movie she's
Uh,
like the mother in though.
I don't know. I just think her character in this movie, and maybe it's because she did it in between, like she's really kind of had a resurgence lately. Her character in this seems like she was still way too much in her Schitt's Creek character. Like they felt way too identical and not. I don't know. It just, which was fine. I enjoyed. I liked her in Schitt's Creek. I enjoyed it. I still liked her in this movie. I just don't think she was. It was hard for me to not watch it and just be like, oh, it's the character Catherine O'Hara plays. Um, yeah, Michael Keaton just picks this movie up, kind of sets it on his back, and is just like, "It's okay, guys. I'll take it from here," and just carries it throughout. Um, yeah, I think you made a good point of saying with Lydia's character. Do I think she would be able to carry a full movie of this magnitude? Is the character of Lydia Dietz? Yes. Do I feel like we think she can't because she really wasn't given the chance to? Also, yes. I think you could have leaned so much more into the fact of her. I didn't really like her being like a an TV exorcist. I thought that was kind of a dumb plot line.
Yeah.
But you could have leaned so much more too into the whole like I see dead people facet of things. Maybe she's more kind of like how June was in the original, but on the Earth side of things. She is kind of like I feel like her character would have been better off being more like a supernatural guide.
Yeah.
She's the Earthside version to help. That's the business in which she lives in. She helps ghosts get settled and acquainted with what, their new life is. But I just feel like this movie, like I said, and I've harped on it and I will continue to harp on it. It's bloated. There's too much. The wrap up is just this like it was almost like we got to the end and it's like, well, how do we end it? A sandworm eats the bad guy. Okay, cool. Well, what about Beetlejuice? Contract doesn't count. Okay. Well, then what do we do with. Well, she just says the name 3 times and Beetlejuice disappears again. Okay. All right, yeah. I guess that works. Sure. Run it. Let's give it a shot. See if we. And then it just seems like it was like, yeah, it's good enough. I feel like there was a lot of plot points in this movie that just felt like it was good enough.
Yeah.
And after reading the quote, like it kind of bothers me that Tim Burton's feeling on it was that he didn't want to go back and rewatch it or revisit the original. He just wanted to kind of pick this one up and run with it. And I get when you've made, I guess kind of the general feeling is you've made so many movies that feel the same.
Yeah.
But I just feel like this, you can't just be like, oh yeah, I'm going to shoot this like I would shoot like if I wanted to make Edward Scissorhands 2. You're not going to go back and look and see to try and kind of get a feel for how that was or where your headspace was. Like, no, you should want to kind of review that and pick up and
Yeah.
figure
I
out
feel
what
like
was going on.
you owe it to the fans. You owe it to yourself.
Well, that to me just
So,
feels like it feels like a storyteller being like, yeah, I didn't go back and kind of check back into how I felt about the characters in the first book. I just figured I'd pick up in book 2 and see where it goes. Like, no, you should absolutely go back and review where you left your characters, what their feelings were, what was going on. Like, he said, I didn't even watch the first movie before I did this one because I didn't feel like it was going to help me. I just wanted to make this movie in terms of the set design. I didn't go back and study everything. I wanted to make sure it felt new to me and more expanded without over expanding. It's an important balance to try to mix. It feels like you didn't try to balance it at all. You just decided to do whatever you wanted and hope that it fit what the original was. And I get it. I'm not in his shoes, so I don't know what that's like, but we just talked about the fact that he rattled off like a movie every year slash every other year between the time this first one was made up until like the mid 2000s. So you've done how many other movies? And actually, you know what? This brings me to another kind of gripe I've had about things. Brings me back to the characters behind me, man. Takes me back to Batman, and it kind of irks me. Maybe that's part of the reason why his Batman movies feel like they take place in two completely different places. Because he didn't really go back and review the first one. He just picked up the second one and decided to just run with it. Anywho, if you enjoyed the first movie, you should definitely give this one a watch. Just go with the ride. Don't think too much into it. If you go into this movie trying to think you're going to review it or treat it as a movie that is going to be felt like that, you're not going to enjoy it. If you go into it just hoping to enjoy the ride, it's a fun movie. It's a fun popcorn movie. This is a Halloween time. Turn this movie on while you're doing some other stuff. Pop back in when Michael Keaton's on the screen. See what silly and fun antics he's getting into. And then, maybe when other stuff is going on, you focus on whatever other stuff you got to get done.
If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to rate and subscribe. Check us out on Instagram at Cocktails and Classics Pod, and check out our website, www.cocktailsandclassicspod.com. Let us know your thoughts on the Beetlejuice Bubbles cocktail, which you can get the recipe down in the show notes, and hit up the Casker links to buy yourself some alcohol. And let us know your thoughts on Beetlejuice Beetlejuice. Was it kind of a letdown? Did you enjoy it? Did nostalgia feed your viewing experience? Let us know. Happy New Year's. Yeah, see you in the new year, everybody. And as always, watch responsibly. I gotta get that line in there,
Oh, we'll put it in there. We'll add it in post.